Welcome to the Some Forever, Some for Better podcast, where we're going to talk about how knowledge has changed throughout the centuries based on encyclopedias that have been previously written or currently available. My name is Stan.
My name is Hal.
And we are going to be your hosts for this. Occasionally we'll bring in guests, but for now we're just going to start with picking random topics from three sources. For today's information, we'll use Wikipedia, a random topic from Wikipedia. I have also purchased a Encyclopedia Britannica from 1980 and an Encyclopedia Britannica from 1877. So we will go ahead. Hal, what are you?
Oh no, I'm just making snide remarks in my brain. You got this, buddy.
Are you making snide remarks, or are you just thinking them?
Oh, I'm just thinking them.
All right. Okay. So I wrote a program to pick a random topic based on a page number from a random book in each set. The first three topics I picked, using random generation, was It Happened Out West, out of Wikipedia. It's a movie from 1937. From 1980, randomly picked television. From 1877, randomly picked temple. So, of those three topics, Hal, which one would you like to start with?
So I'm going to be real with you. I forgot about all of those except for television. So why don't we talk about television, the only one I've heard of? Let's go!
That's fine.
Let's go.
So if we look at television, in 1877, television didn't exist.
What? You were alive back then, so you would know.
It's not available. So if I look in 1877, there's nothing about television. However, there are some precursors that we could look at.
Ooh, like what?
So in 1980, the 1980 Encyclopedia Britannica has very extensive numbers of pages about television, including the history. And the first real reference to anything to do with television was the discovery of the photochromatic ability of selenium, discovered in 1873.
Selenium, isn't that toxic to fungi? You got some fungus on your foot, you just dip it in selenium, it goes away?
I don't know anything about selenium.
Okay,
maybe.
Well, I think I learned that in chemistry in high school.
It could be. I will not confirm or deny that.
My contributions are invaluable.
But I did look up selenium in the encyclopedia from Encyclopedia Britannica in 1877. I'll pull that up now.
Okay, perfect. I'll provide elevator music. Do 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 do. That's just the Jeopardy thing, and that's fine, right? Is that copyright? Jeopardy? Is that copyright? Like
I'm
Wheel
not
of
sure
Money?
if Jeopardy is copyrighted.
Okay,
but
well,
just make sure I'm actually in the mic when you're asking me a question. Okay, here we got.
Okay.
Encyclopedia Britannica, 1877.
You know you're not facing your mic either, so
Sorry.
no one hearing you.
Volume 21.
Volume 21, Encyclopedia Britannica.
To SIA, S-I-A. They predicted her happening, and they got an encyclopedia page on SIA. Is that how you pronounce her name? I could be wrong.
Yeah, no, I think you got that. I think you got this.
Going to selenium.
Selenium. S-E-L-E-N-I-U-M. Selenium. Give me a trophy.
Now, this discovery happened in 1873, so it happened before these were published. But the thing is it included? That's what we'll look at.
Okay. Do 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 do. That's all right. We have a producer who's going to cut real music in between. Okay, I'm getting a disapproving head shake.
About
Which means our producers are unwilling to pull their weight, and they're just here. Oh, we're filming in front of a live studio audience by the way of two incredibly useless people who are not going to contribute. Okay, one of them's indignant because he set up all this shit. But can I say shit?
I don't know if you can say shit.
Okay, fuck.
We have to beep that out.
All right. Beep.
We have to figure out how to beep that out first.
Beep.
So in selenium and tellurium are two rather rare chemical elements.
Rather rare, not very rare. It's like
they
a
were
B
discovered
minus.
by Müller von Reichenstein in 1782.
That's a great name.
Now, it really doesn't say much about them, and there is nothing in there about any photochromatic effect. And part of it is they're talking about some of the properties. I'm not sure what photochromatic effect is. I looked it up in Encyclopedia Britannica in 1980.
Photo means light, chroma means color. Light color effect.
So there are some properties, and it says something about, like, it's amorphous, it's hardens on very dark colored glass. nothing
Would you
about
like
any
to
light.
read the passage in your best German accent?
It begins to conduct electricity at 165 to 175 degrees Celsius, which is pretty hot.
It's pretty hot. Almost as hot as me. Oh. I'm working on my self-affirmations this 2025. It's not going great so far. You can help me. Send me an email telling me how great you think I am. Don't tell me how much you dislike my personality.
I don't think your personality is relevant here.
Oh, okay. I'm just here to be a tree.
So
Not a plant.
what this is telling me is that in 1980, and also in Wikipedia today, if you read about television in Wikipedia today, you're going to find out about selenium as being a significant thing in the formation of television. In 1873, the discovery that it's photochromatic wasn't important. And that happens today. So when we look at things today, there's things that are discovered today, but we don't know what their use is eventually going to be.
Yes.
So when discovered this property, it wasn't considered to be something that everybody should know, like some other topics we're going to talk about. However, now it says that was a significant thing in the move towards television.
Kind of like how today we don't know that Ozempic makes your balls shrink into little teeny tiny shriveled grapes, but we'll know that in about 25 years.
Maybe. I can't confirm that.
It's not important today. We'll know that, 103 years from now?
103 years from now, we'll all be dead, Hal, because
Well,
it
you
makes your
won't.
balls shrink into teeny tiny.
All right, don't give me any ideas for ending this species.
So, but it is. It's something that says, like, at that time it wasn't important. Now it's known. It talks about that as a history of television. It's covered both in Wikipedia today and it's covered in the 1980 Encyclopedia Britannica. Now, there are some differences, though. And that's pretty much almost all the rest of the discoveries in television happened after this encyclopedia was written. It happened after 1877. So those things are obviously not going to be in there. Some of the guys who made the discoveries were not even born yet. And we're going to see that consistently along with all the racism in 1877 as well.
Oh, wonderful. Love that. Love that for all of us.
I hope you're looking forward to that, Hal.
I'm looking forward to it so much. I'm the tiny, tiny drop of melanin in our little duo. So.
Indeed. Yeah, these encyclopedias, just to be fair, Encyclopedia Britannica in 1980 and 1877 was still very much Western-centric.
Yep.
So most of the topics will be about things that were known in the West. However, today, when you look at something like Wikipedia, just the volumes of information that's out there is enormous. You wouldn't be able to create an encyclopedia like that because in the old days you had to figure out how much you could print and how much it cost. Whereas today, everything is out there, everything is available. Anybody can write an article. It's not curated like the old days, but there's a lot more information about stuff.
Well, back when there were 72 people and half of them were women who didn't matter, you narrow it down to just the 13 white men who are allowed to write or say anything. It was probably a much less Herculean task.
First of all, that's a challenge against me because I was one of those 13 men back in 1877.
I knew it. All right, you wrote all the racist stuff, right? All right.
I cannot confirm or deny that.
All right, fine, good. We won't get canceled, episode 1.
We
go,
could.
Stan.
We still might get canceled.
Okay.
Now let's look at television 1980. A lot of the things that younger people today consider television were not television yet. Television at that time was still mainly broadcast. So
Okay.
broadcast, there was about maybe a dozen channels that were broadcast. I think it might have been less than that. There were only 3 television networks: ABC, NBC, and CBS.
And if you are younger than 29, 30 years old, television is this thing that preceded YouTube and is like YouTube, except for instead of an ad every 30 seconds, it's like 3 minutes of ads every 6 or 7 minutes. Okay, go.
I felt some anger there. I felt some anger about advertisers, but we love our advertisers
We
for
love
this
our
show.
advertisers. We love our advertisers. Get better help. If you're sad, but you can't afford, your local MD therapy person, and you don't mind not, sitting in a room with a stranger, you just want to do that shit online. Ah, fuck.
Beep, beep, beep.
You can, better help. They don't sponsor us, but maybe if you call them and demand it, they will. So call BetterHelp and tell them to sponsor Stan and Hal. Okay.
Now,
Sponsorship over.
Sponsorship is over. So if you look at the history of television, it's pretty much the same from 1980 and from Wikipedia today started the same. They use the same references about who did what, the initial broadcast things, the television networks that started, things that were considered the golden age of television, although I would think that the 2000s are more of a golden age of television than what was considered that, just because writing is so much better. But back in those days, 1980, it was still pretty much run by the networks, so shows were only shown at a certain time. If you missed it, you wouldn't be able to watch it again until it went into summer reruns or whatever it is. So this is pre-cable. There were cable, but they were just starting out very select rural areas. VCRs were just starting out, VHS, Betamax. So it's pre-DVDs. It's pre-streaming. It is, the network controlled everything. Every TV was a giant cathode ray tube and weighed about like 100 pounds. So
Perfect.
they were.
So don't you feel bad for this young generation that they'll never get to experience just the transcendence of watching an entire 76% of your favorite television series out of order? It's a linear narrative. The plot really matters to understand and appreciate the show. You get to watch like episode 42 and then episode 3.
So I'm going to have to disagree with you there, because I did watch TV in the 70s.
Yeah.
And every show had its own plot, and it was not related to a previous show.
Well, you know, not all of us are 1 trillion years old still. I'm saying this for the younger generation. They don't understand. You can't click on anything. There's no click.
There's
no
click.
mouse.
There is no click.
There's no touch screen.
And that's why we titled this Some for Better, because some changes are for better. The fact that your TV probably can't just topple over and kill you anymore,
I mean,
that's probably better, right?
We all could use some excitement in our lives that isn't just hate news. I, for one, am a proponent of bringing back the Topple television. And that brings us to today's sponsor, Topple Television. Fucking fucked it up already. Topple Television. Are you a parent but you don't want to be? Put your baby in front of Topple Television. It'll do the job. All right, back to our main story.
Our producer's over there shaking his head on that statement. He's got, I got to cut that stuff.
So that
I got to
was
cut
a real
that.
sponsor, but if you call enough people, it could be Topple Television. Undo your mistakes.
So the bottom line about some of these things on television is that some of the things, like the fact that if you want to watch a show, first, the content is a lot better than it ever was. It's like you can see shows that are very specific to your interest. You know, obviously there's reality TV, which I don't consider a good thing, but a lot of people like that, like to watch different things.
Everybody loves to watch strangers fake fall in love. So much better than watching your friends fake fall in love and then stop texting or calling you for 40 days.
Hey, when I'm talking about reality TV, I'm talking about cooking shows or
I
Blown
thought you were
Glass.
talking about Love Island, which is a show about, I can only assume, an island covered in just syphilis.
Oh my God, I got to talk about one episode because I did watch this one. Somebody said, oh, you should watch this. And
oh man, do I want to hear this?
A person dressed up in a bear suit and scared people to see if the guy would protect them or run away. It was like, and the only legitimate thing I saw when I watched that, because it was one of the dumbest things I've ever seen, was a guy goes, "There's a guy in a bear suit. What's up with that?"
That's the appropriate response. See, that man's a thinker. That man's a thinker. Allow him a shot at his DNA.
I didn't watch the show, but I'm assuming that guy won. If he didn't win, I think that would be...
Or if he didn't win, that's indicative of a very dark future for us all.
We back towards the Ozempic and shriveled up like raisins.
Yep. And for all other problems, there's Topple Television. Hey, a throwback in episode 1.
I do remember when I had to throw away my 200-pound TV, and I took it out to the curb. I was going to donate it, but once I tried to get it through the door and tried to use a, what's that thing, a dolly? Tried to use a dolly and was breaking every single piece of it because it was so heavy for the dolly. I was like, nope, it's going out to the curb.
So, like, question, since I wasn't alive 1,000 years ago, how big, like, what's the inchage of this TV?
It was probably I think a 36-inch TV.
Okay.
And which is not, I mean, today that's nothing. I mean, now you're talking 80-inch TVs. But back then, 36-inch, yeah.
Stan, 36 inches or 36 dick inches? It could be like, this little. It could be like the size of my hand.
She's making signs over there. They're not on video, but we're all seeing it here. Our producers are looking at this, and they're like shaking their heads again. This is really, really, they're looking at some of the sketchy shits now.
Yeah, but they are not liking this.
Like it was like the size of a ruler.
Okay.
So, not a ruler, I mean a yardstick.
Okay, because I was going to say ruler, that's dick inches.
That's dick inches, yeah.
That's dick inches.
It was a yardstick, and it probably weighed 200 pounds. So it was something that you had to have on a very stable base, so you didn't topple over and kill small women.
Was there a guy in a bear suit that came and helped scare your TV down
I wish he would have carried it for me, though, because a guy in a bear suit could have carried that.
All right, wow.
Okay.
So what happened to this giant television?
It is probably in some garbage dump or was sent over to Africa where they're dismantling it by burning it into pieces.
Oh,
yes.
Wonderful. I love that for us. It's just in the ocean where it belongs,
yes.
Right? Our producer has opinions.
Oh, no, I did try to recycle it, but it was too hard to recycle. I put it to the curb, and hopefully a garbage picker picked it up and took it away and took the parts.
I bet some poor, underprivileged, unhoused man came across that TV and was like, oh, beep, yeah, and wheeled that beeper off into the night. Do whatever you gonna do with it.
All right, you want to switch topics?
That's the topic I knew the most about, so my contributions are just going to get great. Let's go.
You want to switch to It Happened Out West?
Yeah, tell me about this movie that happened when you were alive and I wasn't.
No,
1937.
I was 1937 was
on
the
this
movie.
continent.
Yeah, I don't think any of us were on the continent in 1937. That's like World War II. Well, not quite.
That's before we started nuking each other.
Yeah, I wasn't
Producer
alive
didn't
yet
like me
at
bringing
that
up. He says everyone's nuking the bathroom all week, which is true.
A better prepared person would have actually brought this up already. I'm doing that now, so just
you need some elevator music or maybe some swear words for the beeper for later. Give you some practice.
Because I've looked this up, and just this is one of the interesting things about It Happened Out West, obviously it wasn't in the 1877 version because it came out in 1937. It's also not in the 1980 version because this movie was very insignificant as far as I can tell.
Oh, great.
So, but one of the things it does show you is that stuff like this there's so many things that are covered in Wikipedia that are not covered in just an encyclopedia. Like this topic was, you'd have to go in deep into the film archives to find something out about this. And it's even the blurb on Wikipedia is very small. I could probably read it. I won't read it, but I probably could read it and it wouldn't take that much time.
I just find it very relatable to be too insignificant to earn a page on Wikipedia or an entry in an encyclopedia or basically any historical record of your existence.
Someday you will have a page. Someday you will have a page.
Who's to say I don't already?
You said you don't. You said you're insignificant.
Yeah, but you can make your own Wikipedia page.
You can make your own. Sometimes they take those out, though.
Oh, man, they sure are more diligent than they used to be.
And there's also the ones that says, like, this is all from the original source of the person who wrote it themselves, and it's very, unreliable at this point. We need sources. Yeah.
I have a little anecdote about Wikipedia. Sponsorship time. Wikipedia. They don't sponsor us, but with enough phone calls, they might. Donate to Wikipedia. I'm actually serious about this. I was looking for an answer to a very simple, basic question the other night, and Google and even DuckDuckGo weren't being very productive. I used a bunch of different AI chatbots. They were pulling information from 2016. I knew it was wrong. And eventually, I just went to Wikipedia, got an answer in 0.2 seconds. Wikipedia, donate. Stop giving all your money to frickin' female Twitch streamers and donate to Wikipedia. I will judge you if you do not. Call them, have them sponsor us. Thank you. Sponsor content over.
I don't like our sponsors right now. I don't think they do a good job.
They
sing angry about things.
They aren't our sponsors. They're our producers, and they're just some guys we find on the street. You get what you pay for, Stan.
Okay, Hal, let's talk about the plot of It Happened Out West.
Oh, I'm so stoked.
It was set in Arizona.
Arizona, what a state.
And
Easy.
some dude was trying to kick off a widow off of her ranch. He was trying to take it from her.
Okay.
Have you heard of that plot before in any other Western movie?
I think that's the only plot allowed in Western movies. That was
I think it is the only plot. This could
from
have been the first one.
1926 to 1954. That was the only plot allowed in Western movies.
I think it was, and it was like it's very, very common. But this was like it's written in early like they weren't silent movies back then. They were like regular movies back then. But it was when the movie industry was fairly new. So this could have been an early one. I don't know. I've never studied the history of how many movie Western plots are somebody trying to steal a ranch from a widow.
You know, you're the only one who didn't have to take that gen ed credit in college. All the rest of us studying widow movies set in Arizona.
Oh, Arizona. I did bring Arizona because obviously the movie's not there in 1877, but Arizona was referenced in 1877.
Oh man, what do they have to say about Arizona?
I'm gonna ask you, Hal, as far as the Western thing in Arizona, what is probably the number one thing that people think about when they think about Arizona?
Cactus, desert.
There was a significant
Probably something racist.
A significant old shootout someplace in Arizona.
Oh, good.
Have you ever heard of the gunfight at the OK Corral?
Have I ever heard of? I mean, every day's a gunfight where I live, buddy. I live in America 2025.
So the OK Corral, Wyatt Earp, that was very significant then, right? There's movies said about that, all these things about the gunfight at the OK Corral, right? So it's a significant thing. So I think probably maybe that's in there under Arizona?
Let's
in
look it up.
1877? Well, you know what? I did look it up.
Oh, wonderful.
You know when Tombstone, the town, was formed?
I do know about Tombstone, Arizona.
You know when the town was founded?
I'm going to guess you were alive and I wasn't.
Probably. It was founded in 1879.
Okay, yeah, I was right then.
So if you look at Arizona, and the most significant Western thing we think about Arizona is the gunfight at the OK Corral, the town wasn't even founded yet. So this is actually after 1877. So in 1877, Arizona was not a state. It was a territory of the United States.
So 1877 Encyclopedia says, Arizona was this little place. Nothing ever happened there. The end. But 1980.
It's close to that.
Beautiful.
I'm just looking it up, and I'm difficult with alphabetical.
Would you like help? Are you having difficulty looking at the tiny words with your ancient eyes?
Arizona, here we go. And I don't know, did you ever read encyclopedias when you were a kid? I did.
You know, when I was a kid, I thought the encyclopedia was the coolest collectible item you could possibly own, and I truly and deeply, from my soul, desired one. I think I had like a children's encyclopedia set, and all these like little thin volumes. Q was a
with
freaking
real
joke.
big font.
Yeah, you had big font for dumb little children. But I was like, someday I'm going to own the real leather-ish bound British encyclopedia, and I'm going to be so cool. That never happened because I never made any money. But
are you a sad girl because of that?
Stan, you're a sad girl. Stan, I'll give you something to be sad about. Want to look at my 36 inches?
It's a TV set. Just for reference, 36 inches is referencing a TV set, just to make sure we're all clear on that.
All right. Well, my dreams never came true, and here we are. Let's go. Did you find it?
Well, one of the things I always liked about encyclopedias when I was a kid is you'd go through something, look up a topic, and you'd find something else that was like cool too. Like right after the entry for Arizona is the Ark of the Covenant, and we all have watched Indiana Jones.
One time I watched a bunch of idiots play an Indiana Jones video game, and that's pretty much the same thing.
Were they looking for the Ark of the Covenant?
He was looking for something somewhere. It's pretty standard plot with
There's
Indy.
some weird laser ghost stuff going on in that old Ark of the Covenant. That's all I know.
That's how I learned that Harrison Ford is a bit of a diva on set. Harrison Ford, our sponsor for today. He's not, but he could be. Call him.
Okay, I think it's Arizona is stuck on one of sticky pages for some reason.
Why are your pages sticky, Stan? I do not need to know this.
Okay, I got it there. Okay. Now I know it says Arizona here, but I can't find the
Next time, Stan is just going to hand me the book, and I will find it in 3 seconds.
first city one.
Which is a lot slower than
There it is.
Wikipedia would find it.
I got it.
Sponsor us.
Arizona is a territory of the United States. So that's established. So the weird thing is it doesn't say when it became a state in 1877.
Talking to the mic, Stan.
Let's see if we got the population in here. There's like,
Population was 11.
there is less than a column about Arizona. It was just like, wasn't that important back then.
Is it important now?
And there's like Phoenix is like the 6th largest city.
Oh, that's pretty cool. I have not yet been to Arizona. I've been trying to get to Arizona for a long time. Nobody invites me there.
Well, here, just maybe this might discourage you because in 1877 it says the towns are all of inconsiderable size and the whole white population of the territory in 1870 did not amount to more than 9,658. It did say the whole white population in the 1877 Encyclopedia.
Man, I wish that the white population of where I lived was 9,678 or whatever you said.
So it wasn't that big. That's the point, right?
Yeah.
I don't know what the other population is. I'd have to look up there to figure it out.
I
but
mean,
it doesn't say much
Stan,
more than that.
I've been around 9,678 white people before, and I was uncomfortable. So I think that's a pretty decent population size.
You know
So
what?
you have to append to that.
I don't think I can defend only including the white population in a book of encyclopedia.
Stan would
But
like to make a statement on behalf of the white population.
I think one of the things it shows is just how, we knew that going into this that in 1877, and that's why I said some for better, because some changes are for better. It was very much, hold on, somebody's showing me something. I took my glasses off, but let me see what
You
this
got to keep those on so you can look at stuff.
population. Oh, the city we live in, the population is 17,000 right now.
Okay, so we
were
beat
bigger than
Arizona in
Arizona, yeah.
1877. Yeah, high five.
You know what? Beep Arizona.
We beat Arizona.
Beep, beep. I wanted to say something else, but
Beep Arizona. Oh, I see. Okay, yeah. Yeah. Let's.
okay, Hal, okay.
You gotta go like beep. Like beep.
Arizona might be bigger than Michigan now. We're in Michigan. No?
No, but we have more electoral votes. I think we're big.
Well, can we
population.
compare white population like we would in 1877?
Just got a middle finger. We just got a birdie from the audience. This is going well.
Our producers don't like those statements for some reason.
No.
It's Alaska.
I have
it's
some
windy out
stories
now, too.
about Alaska.
Hey, this movie wasn't that interesting. However, the star of the movie, and really none of the characters, I haven't heard any of these guys before. None of these guys are in 1980. Obviously, they're not. They weren't even born in 1877. But there is a guy that starred in the movie. His name is Paul Kelly.
Paul Kelly.
You ever heard of Paul Kelly?
Paul Kelly.
Paul.
You know, I have not heard of Paul Kelly, but I've heard of a guy named Paul, and I heard of a guy named Kelly.
Have you heard of a guy named Paul Michael Kelly?
Paul Michael Kelly. So his name is Paul Mike Kelly?
Yes.
Oh, man. Throwback.
He was in a lot of movies. But one of the significant things about his, or not significant, one of the interesting things about his, is his career survived a manslaughter conviction.
You know,
So that's not really murder, is it?
it's not. Look, the things that people's careers survive today. Okay, so my question is, Mackin, what year was this?
He was in prison in the 1920s. He didn't do the movie
1920s.
until 1937, so this is early in his career. And I think at that time was probably silent movies.
Okay, so wait. Pump the brakes.
Okay.
Back in 1920 whatever, if you got canceled for a manslaughter
You can't get
conviction, Stan, let me talk.
Wait a minute, he was white. He can't get canceled.
Okay, but Stan, shut up. Back in the 1920s, if you did a manslaughter and everybody disliked you because you did a manslaughter,
You mean like
Could you
Alec Baldwin?
You know, Alec Baldwin is here with us on set today. He really wanted us to mention him and say that it wasn't his fault. Alec, we stand by you. It wasn't your fault. I don't know if that's controversial. If it is controversial, then it was his fault. Whatever, sim people, beep, you gotta say guest sponsors around here. Nobody has any integrity anymore. No, if you wanna shut your flapping gums, Stan, and let me ask my question.
Go ahead,
Before
ask
my
the question.
ADHD punts it out of my brain.
Ask your question. I'm going to sit here while you ask your question. I'm going to take a drink. I'm thirsty.
Okay, you're gonna take a drink? All right, yep. You down that entire stout. Well, I try to remember my question, which is, in the 1920s, if you did something really bad for your career, such as manslaughter or, saying stuff, could you just switch your audience to the Republicans and then come back as a far-right politician guy, run for office and make millions more than you would as a regular, decent moderate?
It was a different time, my young friend.
It was a different time. It was a different time. What a perfect answer from our ancient white gentleman. Love that for all of us. All right, Stan, carry us forth.
Okay, let's talk about 1927 with our friend Paul Michael Kelly.
All right.
So he was an actor on Broadway. So a stage actor at the time. Maybe not Broadway, he was a stage actor.
All right.
And
Shakespeare, then.
On April 16th of 1927, a drunk Kelly confronted fellow actor Ray Raymond over his affair with and love for Raymond's wife, Dorothy McKay.
Ooh, spicy.
Raymond, who was also drunk, very significant, they were both drunk.
That was no one's fault, really.
Was no match for Kelly, who was considerably larger than him. I mean, don't put his size there. I want to see like he was like, 6'5" and 240 or something like that.
I would like to know the inches shoulder to shoulder of each of these men.
That we'll never know. We have to figure out something. I don't know where else to go. It's all like it's just in Wikipedia. Where do you go with that? Because that's where I rely for everything.
How much inchage was between the shoulders of Paul Michael Kelly?
But he hit him several times and pounded him and killed him. So it was a manslaughter, and he was convicted of manslaughter.
That sounds pretty murdery to me. Manslaughter is like, oops, I went up on the curb with my vehicle and it checked a lady.
And he denied having a relationship with Ray Raymond's wife, but then they introduced his love letters to Dorothy McKay, and they said, no, you did have the affair. So he was sentenced to 10 years in prison for manslaughter, but served only 25 months.
Ooh, okay. So is this like a privilege thing? What do you do? Pay someone off?
I don't really know. It doesn't say that much, but the conditions of his release. This is what they said. You're going to be released. He must not marry for 18 months after his release. Not allowed to marry. That's the thing they could say. You cannot marry someone.
What a condition.
I don't think they would do that today, but I think back then they could say you cannot marry someone for 18 months.
I have so many more questions than I had a minute ago.
What are your questions now?
You don't deserve to hear them yet. Just finish your little article and we'll talk about them.
And the second condition was he had to take a job as a clerk. And I'm not sure a clerk.
Is that the guy who sits at like a courthouse and stamps your papers?
There's different things now. I don't know what a clerk meant back then. So it might have been something like that. It might have been, I don't know, there's a clerk at a store. There's a couple things at clerks.
It sounds like they had such a worker shortage of clerks that they decided to just make a punishment for killing another person being a clerk so that they would have enough clerks.
Maybe.
Maybe.
They were both actors. But one was considerably larger.
This is such a relevant plot point.
And he couldn't make more than $30 per week.
I mean, back in whenever you were born, that was like 3 million of today's dollars, so that's a very lenient punishment.
You can't say that.
Can't say what, Stan? What
our producers are making some over thoughts over there. We can't say that.
Can't say what? What can't we say? Says who?
So he found out that he couldn't be a clerk. Just couldn't do it. So they said, okay, well, you can go back to acting on Broadway, because he was much more skilled at that, and that's a much more significant part of the American, American what? I don't know. The American ratings.
The economy.
Yeah. And so, but he still could only accept $30 per week. He couldn't earn more than that. He had to accept the thing of $30 per week. So he did get back into acting, and that's why he was able to make it into our selected movie, It Happened Out West. And also in considerably more films. I think he said he was like in, I don't know, 400 roles. So 400 different roles that this guy played. Although, we've never heard of him until now.
I mean, does he have like a sexy calendar? Does he have a poster
I got some
you put in your bedroom? Oh, you're going to show me pictures. All right.
Hold on. Come over here.
Somebody else could show us pictures. We have two quote-unquote producers here. One of them beeped off.
I'm having problems here because there's wires over everything, but
we don't know what we're doing.
I mean, he's
but,
considered a handsome man, but they got old people pictures of him. Here's
old
a young
people
person pictures.
The handsomest. All right, we're taking a look.
Taking pictures.
One at a time. We're taking a look at Paul Michael Kelly. Oh man.
That's before he was a murderer.
This is before he was a murderer?
That's before murderer.
Mary Miles Minter. Okay. Yeah, okay. With the guy. That's the guy. I'm sorry. I can't concentrate on the dude. I'm just so impressed with these ringlets. They're so...
They're
so
tubular.
Awesome.
Yeah, exactly.
They're so tubular.
It's like you don't see hair like that anymore.
How old is he in this picture? Because that looks...
1919, so that would be... he was born in 1899, maybe. So about 20 years old.
About 20 years old?
Yeah.
And too young. That's a child.
You know what?
Back in the day, you probably fought 3 wars by the time you were 20.
He was younger than my grandmother.
Younger than your grandmother? That's not true. That's not true. I mean,
you don't believe that, do you?
I mean, you're doing like some body swap in Nosferatu beep, right? So I guess one of your grandmothers is probably younger than that.
Got to get my fresh blood someplace.
Yep. I don't know if we should explain this lore. I think we should just let people guess.
So you know what he did after in 1931?
What did he do?
After his ban from marrying expired?
Did he marry just everybody in America?
No, he married the person that he killed for.
Oh, how romantic.
Isn't that romantic?
That's more romantic than the bear suit guy on Love Island.
And he stayed with her until her death.
Wow.
3 days later. No, it was not 3 days later. It was not 3 days later.
3 days later. 3 days later, she died. Did he also kill her?
They were married until 1940, and she was in an auto crash. And she walked home from the auto crash, and she's like, "No, I'm not hurt. I'm fine." And then 3 days later, she died from internal injuries because people didn't really check things back then as much, and there was like they didn't understand some of the things. So it's kind of a little bit of a tragedy. So
that's why if you're going skiing or snowboarding and you fall and you hit your head on a rock, even if you feel fine, you should probably go to the hospital if that's something your family can afford for the next 40 years. Because, I knew somebody who expired that way, and it was real sad. But back to your point about how this is a love story, sometimes it's justified. Paul Michael Kelly is innocent. He did what he had to do.
And what about Ray Ray?
Sucks to suck, Ray Ray. Maybe you should have taken some jiu-jitsu classes so that you could kick a guy named Paul's ass.
But to be fair for Ray Ray,
defend your lady.
If he fight for Ray Ray, what's this guy's name again? Just not good at this. Paul Mike Kelly.
Paul Mike Kelly
was significantly larger.
He was significantly larger, but you know what? There's a lot of people significantly larger than me, and one swift kick to the dildy balls gonna bring them to their knees. And you know what? When they on their knees, they less than 5 feet tall.
Dildy Balls is not a sponsor. We do not have sponsorship from Dildy Balls.
But we will if you make some phone calls. God, what if all of the listeners are under 30 years old? They don't know how to make phone calls. It gives them anxiety. We're screwed. Stan, you got to appeal to the old people, but can you do it with like less racism than normal?
I don't know because
canceled.
I get anxious making phone calls. Thank God we don't have to do that anymore.
Phone calls. Listen. They're more afraid of you than you are of them.
The phone call
them. Yeah, you call them. Do you know anybody in the world who is happy to receive a phone call? I received a phone call this morning informing me that I woke up 2 hours late. Did I love that? No, but it improved my life because I made it. I made it to the session. You're welcome, everybody. Make a phone call. Do something every day that scares you. It'll improve you as a person. And you can go make a productivity video about it and make 8 cents off the ad revenue. What were we talking about?
Something about Paul Mike Kelly.
Paul Mike Kelly. Look,
And
sometimes...
his love story.
Sometimes...
It's an American love story. He couldn't be a clerk.
It's the real love story.
The story should be he could not be a clerk. That's what the story's about.
Story's
He had
about
to go,
couldn't be a
acting was
clerk.
calling
Okay,
him.
look, if somebody told me that my punishment for quote-unquote accidentally killing a man was to do a job I hate for an indefinite amount of time, I would probably just choose prison. It's the same thing, except your rent and food are paid for.
Okay, first of all, he was white. He didn't have to choose going to prison.
Okay, so
he
like
could
if I
choose
were white,
not
then
getting paid enough.
If I were white, then I might choose prison. But since I don't get that choice, I'm probably going to have to be a clerk.
Well, that makes sense.
All right. Next session, we're going to look up what a clerk is.
Okay. Yeah, we don't know. It could be anything. I mean, like it was just a generic term for like he had like.
Generic term for low-wage worker.
I think it is. I mean, I think it might have been like it could have been a server, a bartender. He could have been like I don't want a clerk. Clerk could be works at a hotel desk. That's a clerk,
I was
right?
going to quit my job to become a bartender in like 2019, 2020, and then COVID happened, and it just destroyed my plans. So here we are. I still can't make a mixed drink. So sad.
Our producer can make a milk drink.
A milk
Wait a minute,
drink?
a milk drink? I think I said that wrong.
You know, I can make a milk drink. It's called pouring milk in a cup.
Is it chocolate milk? It's got to be chocolate milk.
Chalky milk?
Yes.
Chalky milk.
Yes.
All right.
We need to get some interns that could bring us chocolate milk.
You know, yeah.
That's one thing we have missing.
One thing we're missing. That brings us to today's sponsor, chocolate milk. Do you have no lactose intolerance, but you hate freaking plain milk and you want to put some chalky in it? You can do that.
You're not lactose intolerant like a normal person?
Yeah, like a normal person. Stan, you've ruined the sponsored content. Now chocolate milk is never going to sponsor us. They're very upset. We're getting angry emails now.
Chocolate Milk did a study to see if chocolate milk was effective for recovery after a run as Gatorade. And Chocolate Milk did the study, and Chocolate Milk found out that chocolate milk was as effective as Gatorade. I love chocolate milk,
amazing.
so I believe that study. I've read it, and I think it's actually accurate because I do like chocolate milk better than Gatorade.
You know, my LLC that I definitely actually formed in 2016 called Strychnine Mixed with Arsenic did a study about whether strychnine mixed with a little bit of arsenic was just as effective as Gatorade in making you recover after a run. And you know what we found? We found absolutely the same freaking thing.
Which
so
one? Does one of us
everybody
give
go
you a-
home and drink a little bit of arsenic strychnine combination, just to sprinkle it into your water.
Which one of those was made to make your skin pallor white or something like that? Was that? You guys remember that? I know it's a
That's
thing.
called Korean beauty products.
We're gonna look at like our producers and find out if either it was strychnine or if it was arsenic that was used to make your skin whiter, and so people would use that back in the 1800s.
I mean, probably arsenic between the two of them, but today we just call it Shiseido. Today's
know.
sponsors,
I don't know.
Japanese beauty products. You want to bleach your skin? Shiseido.
Wasn't okay.
Okay, we're going to bleep that
Synthetic
because
lead.
I really shouldn't say brand names and then say that they sponsor us when they don't.
All right, I think we've covered that topic enough. Let's go to the next topic.
Okay, perfect.
This
Let's
is
go.
your favorite, I think, right?
Yep, my favorite.
It is temple.
Temple, like the Masonic Temple in
Nope.
downtown. Okay, well then I don't know what you're talking about.
So temple, the temple we looked up was from 1877.
Wonderful.
So in 1877, the topics on temple was very Western centric, I'll say.
So they'd never heard of a Japanese temple. They'd only heard of that one Jewish one, and they didn't like it. They didn't like it at all.
They had heard of a Japanese temple, but instead of actually going to Japan and learning about a Japanese temple and maybe the differences, they just projected what a temple was in the Western culture, which is mainly Judeo-Christian, and they just applied that to every temple in the world as being exactly the same.
Yeah, sounds on brand for them.
So if you look at the temple, and I'll go into this a little bit. I'm going to go into a little bit of detail on temples, just because if you look at this, this is the most beat up book we have.
Oh, dang.
This is very beat up from like the 1877
So we need to
Encyclopedia.
use our wordsmith
As-
poetry skills to describe this book. It is missing its spine.
It doesn't even say what's the which volume it is. I had to actually go into it and look what the first topic was and what the last topic was, and then that's what I picked for the letters.
Wonderful.
But this is very, very old. So if you look at this today, in Wikipedia today, there are about 30 subtopics on different types of temples. So there's a generic temple that covers basically that, temples are a place that house the gods that you can go, that some of the holy leaders protect it. There's altars where you can present worships, and some of them have that. And then it has very specific things on what would be either a temple or the equivalent of a temple in several religions. Not all. There's like 3,000 religions, but in like, some of the more common ones, Islam, Buddhism, Shinto, Zarism. I don't know all this.
Shinto?
I think I said Shinto. Is that right?
That was incorrect. but
Okay. What is the correct thing?
Shinto.
Shinto. Oh, okay.
Shinto. Stan.
And in this podcast, I will mispronounce many words because I do it how I remember them.
That's your job as the privileged few.
I am not Alex Trebek. I will not try to get the pronunciation correct because some of these words,
Alex Trebek.
some of these words I have used my entire life and nobody has corrected me until now.
Well, I'm sorry that nobody in your life respected you enough to make sure that you were saying words correctly. That's so embarrassing for you.
It's okay.
R.I.P.
I've
Alex.
accepted it. So, temple in 1877, and it's like, it does talk about like a temple has a anteroom, it has like the main thing, people can't go in there, every temple has an altar out in front, this is where the sacrifices are made, everything is the same thing. And it just says all temples are like this. And then it covers 3 temples in details, and a lot of details about 3 temples.
3?
And it's really 2 temples, but they cover it in 3 temples. So it's really the first and second temple of Jerusalem. First temple of Jerusalem is Temple of Solomon. The second temple, I'm going to probably pronounce this one wrong. Let me just get this.
Do
Hold
your
on, just
best.
say something. I'm going to look
Sound
this
it
up.
out. Sound it out, Stan. Just remember that some letters can make multiple different sounds, like C.
The temple of Zerubbabel. Zerubbabel?
You're the one holding the book.
Zerubbabel.
You did your best. Okay, let's take a look at this. That says Paul Michael Kelly. Tombstone, Arizona, 1879.
I don't think you've been paying attention to this. What do you say? Zerubbabel? Zerubbabel? Zerubbabel. Let's call it Zerubbabel.
Hey Siri. How do you pronounce Temple of Zerubbabel? It pulled up a whole ass YouTube called How to Pronounce Zerubbabel.
You can't.
That's how we're gonna say it. We're gonna Conan this. Zerubbabel.
I have never learned how to roll my R's. I've tried. I could never do that. I apologize.
That limits you from speaking so many beautiful languages. All right, so the Temple of Zerubbabel. Tell me about it.
And the third one was the Temple of Herod.
Well, that's
So
not fun.
those 3 temples are the first and second temple of Jerusalem. So those are the temples that they consider to be significant. Now, if you go into the articles, I'm not going into detail in these articles because I did go into detail in these articles, and it was boring as bleep.
Learning's for nerds anyway.
There was a lot of stuff about cubits. You guys know what a cubit is?
Cubit.
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 Not qubit, like not a quantum bit, which is also called a qubit. It's cubit, C-U-B-I-T, cubit. It's a measurement.
What a great word. I think we should bring it back into the everyday American lexicon. Like, I got 3 cubits of patience left for you, young man. You better go to your room and clean it, or else I'm going to set you in front of the topple television. Whatever happens, happens. It is 1920. I will not go to prison no matter how dead you are.
Oh my God, you've been paying attention.
Sometimes I put forth a little bit of effort just for you, Stan.
I believe a cubit, I think the cubit was a measurement from your elbow to the tip of your finger. That was a general thing. Like a foot was a measurement of the heel to the toe, kind of like your foot.
Everyone loves that. Everyone loves imperial measurements. They're so precise and logical. You know, I always said, Stan, imperial is the way to go. Metric is for little bitches. I mean, little boobs.
I think this makes Americans bilingual because we can use both metric measurements and imperial measurements. We understand both. We're bilingual.
It makes us buy something.
Because I know if I look at track meets and swim meets, they're all metric. So that means we know how to say metric things. And if I buy 2 liters of pop, I know that's about 2 quarts.
What
Is it about 2
if
quarts?
you're trying to bake a cake, how many cubits of sugar go in your cake?
About this much, Hal.
Oh,
about that
okay.
much.
So between 2 and 75 inches of sugar?
Yes.
Perfect.
And that is how all cake measurements are made, is in cubits.
Yeah, and cubits and inches. Cubits and inches.
So there's not controversy, but in 1877, there was different types of cubits. So when they'd say they would use like a cubit from like the Middle East versus a cubit from England, it could be different measurements. And they talk about this. So when they're talking about the temple, now Temple of Solomon, I don't think it exists anymore. And I think the Temple of Herod, they do have some artifacts from that, but I don't know if it doesn't exist as a full thing. So these are both historical things. And if you read in 1877, almost all of the information about these temples is based on the Bible. It is not historical sources.
All right.
However, in Wikipedia today, it will say, this is what they said in the Bible, and they will say if there are historical things that corroborate that. So it'll say like, this is what it said in the Bible, but we've also seen historical things, or we have artifacts, we've done the measurement. But in 1877, a lot of the stuff in the Bible was considered to be fact. In the Western culture, obviously I will qualify that it's the Western culture that was saying this.
So what did the Bible say about the Temple of Zerubbabel?
a lot of measurements, a lot of things about how they. I mean, it's all speculation here. Like, hold on a minute, let me read this. I got to take my glasses off because this is really, really small.
Okay, our producer would like us to know that the correct pronunciation of Zerubbabel is. Would you stop that? I'm not pronouncing it like
Zerubbabel.
that. I'm not.
Zerubbabel.
No. It's Zerubbabel. It is canon. It is canon. It's in the Bible. All right, Zerubbabel.
Which
this is
one
what Jesus would have wanted.
Which one of those is more
and
sexy?
all of your haters.
Which is more sexy? Say your pronunciation.
Zerubbabel.
And Zerubbabel?
He already forgot it. I won.
Zerubbabel. Zerubbabel. I don't think that's a sexy way to say it. But they were not sexy. This was like religious thing. This is like, so we can be non-sexy when we're talking about like temples, I think, right? Like in fairness, can we be? Are there some temples that are sexy? I think our producers are saying there are some temples.
All temples are sexy.
Have you been to all the temples?
I have been to most of a few of the temples, and they were very sexy. Zerubbabel.
I think that's my favorite temple from now on. I'm going to call most things that.
That's what I'm going to call my app when I develop it, regardless of what it does. Zerubbabel.
There is the temple bar.
We could go to the temple bar, but only if it's the temple of Zerubbabel. Stan, get us back on track. I gotta pee.
Okay, we got to finish this up then. Let's go through what we have here. So in 1877, I mean, this is so much stuff about cubits and pillars and whether it's freestanding or all this stuff. And it's all speculation based on the Bible, what it said. And it's, I mean, if you look in today's temple, there's very much that says, hey, in Wikipedia today, it'll say something like, it was said about this size in the Bible, so we speculate that it was this. And it's like a paragraph. In 1877, it is pages about the size, whether it had a freestanding ceiling, how much they would have done on this thing. And it just said in like 1877, size mattered. In 1877.
Size mattered in 1877. Remember that, folks, especially you youngins.
But if you look today, they talk about what you could do with it. It's more about what you could do with that temple, what they did in the temple, how they used the temple, not as much as the size. It's different when we consider things. And you know what? First of all, I can't believe you haven't commented on that. So second, in 1980, I struggled to find anything about temple. I looked up temple, doesn't exist. I looked up Solomon, Temple of Solomon, didn't exist. The only place I could find references to temple, and I didn't go through the entire encyclopedia set, every volume is 1,000 pages, but in Judaism, it talked about some of the religious structures, and temple was mentioned there, but very minor. So really, it was almost like the usage and the size didn't matter in 1980.
Oh, 1980. Cultural shift. Cultural paradigm shift. Zerubbabel.
You know what, Hal?
What?
I think it's about time to end this episode.
Oh, that's a shame.
Because I know, like you are needing to use the facilities here.
I do need to use the facilities, which was an oversight on my part. But you know what, Stanley? I enjoyed learning with you today about important temples such as Zerubbabel and important men such as Paul, Michael, Kelly.
No, don't try to make his name sexy. It was a love story. It was a great love story, but there's no need to try to make his name sexy.
And that other thing we talked about, Topple Television. Today's sponsor, Topple Television, still going to make it happen. Undo your mistakes.
And before we go, we will have to run through and pick our episodes for next week.
Okay, perfect.
So I'm going to run this program I wrote, and I need to go into Wikipedia on my phone. Okay, so next week, I don't have the exact topic, I just have the page number. So in 1877, we'll be looking at volume 17, which is MOT through ORM, and we will be on page 793. So follow along in your set of 1877 encyclopedias, and you can figure out what we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
It may be multiple topics we can choose from, or it may be just a single topic, like this time, television and temple covered many, many pages.
Call in with your guesses. You might win a prize.
In 1980, we will be looking at volume 7, which is Evidence through Georgian, and we will be on page 202.
Does it bother you as much as it bothers me that they didn't just give one volume to a letter? Like one volume, one letter? I understand why they couldn't, but I don't know, it bothers me a little bit.
You want X, Y, Z, W.
Just gonna say, like in the children's encyclopedia set, A had a volume, B had a volume, C had a volume, and then WXYZ had one volume because beep those letters.
Okay, I gotta go get my random one from Wikipedia, just a minute.
Let's go.
Random article. Random article is And Thereby Hangs a Tale by Jeffrey Archer.
Oh, what is this, another movie?
It's a short story and published in 2010. So we'll probably have said everything that's significant about that article already, but that will be article for next week from Wikipedia.
Wonderful. Can't wait.
Anything you have to say before we go?
All I gotta say is they put the Michigan versus Washington game back on, and I'm like kind of half and half with friends or people I care about that went to either school, so I don't really know who to root for. I'm gonna root for Michigan because that's where I live, but I also am highly uninvested in college basketball. Thanks for your time, Stan.
Thanks, Hal. It was great talking to you.
It was great talking to you as always.
And thanks to our producers as well. They did a great job.
Yeah, thanks to those guys who just kind of sat there and made snide comments on the sidelines and then are flipping us off right now.
All right. See you next week.
See you next week. Have a wonderful, what day is it? Have a wonderful Sunday.
It is Sunday.
And God bless us, everyone.